Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
everyone. Welcome.
Good evening.
Hope you're all doing good this Sunday. And we got a special guest. We got Shane Michael Crisp, and he's with the West Coast Dogman Project. And he's doing really good stuff. He's appearing on people's shows, and he's doing his own broadcast and having a lot of interviews with people all over the place. And he's kind of venturing out even in other cryptids and stuff, but he's mainly focused on Dogmen. But it should be a really interesting show to hear some
Mhm.
stories and what his project and other people's stories that been bringing it to him, and we'll just go from there and see how everything's doing. And we got some cool stuff to show you later, and we'll go ahead and bring him on and
Yep.
start talking.
Hey,
Welcome,
Gerald. Hey,
Shane.
Jane. How you doing?
Hi, Shane.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's a true honor. Thank you guys so much.
So you started West Coast Dogman to get into the cryptids, and plus you've started other ones by too, right?
Yeah, there's a whole laundry list of West Coast chapters, I guess you could say, or pages. But yes, the West Coast Dogman Project, it started about a year and a half ago, December of 2021. I jumped in about 3-4 months prior into the Dogman phenomenon after a coworker had told me about the cryptid, and I laughed about it. But after we listened to a few, encounters on Vic kind of show, I started getting more curious, and jumping into the rabbit hole of Dogman. But I grew up a big believer in UFOs and Sasquatch, but I just never really dove into it head first because of the ridicule. So I always stayed hush hush on it. But growing up in high school, especially, there was a book called Roswell, The Evidence. And I checked that book out. It was a 450-page book, and I read it from front to back. And I think I checked it out once or twice during my 4 years in high school. And I was so fascinated with UFOs. And then when disclosure happened, I want to say around 2020, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp were, releasing more and more evidence of what the government was coming out with. So I was really into the UFOs. I'd say 2020, I started diving more into it. But then Dogman all of a sudden presented itself to me, and I was like, hey, I'm going to jump down this rabbit hole. And here we are a year and a half later. And, I'd say I've done a lot in the last year and a half. I mean, I've created the West Coast Dogman Project. We've ventured out. I recently became the Region 1 director for Jody Cook at the North American Dogman Project.
Oh yeah.
And then I've also started a UK chapter called the UK United Kingdom Dogman Encounters, as well as, so many different names. Also, we created the United States Dogman Federation, and that was supposed to be just its own neutral Dogman site that will collaborate with all Dogman investigators. And right now we're kind of not really growing because I think more of my focus has been more on the West Coast and growing the Dogman Project and trying to get evidence out there. So yeah, I mean, whether there's 6 different pages into the West Coast name, from chupacabras to Gugway, skinwalkers, UFOs, and Sasquatch, as well as my favorite, the Dogman. So you name it, West Coast probably has it. So
Yeah,
Wow.
we started off in our backyard just having, little fires, in the fire pit. And then we always looked up and saw the constellations, and then we started seeing unusual stuff moving in the sky. So, Jane started recording them on video. Then we started our YouTube, just, posting those for family and friends. And then pretty soon, we started watching everybody else's shows, and it's like, you know what? That's fun. I think we can do this.
yeah. And I think what you guys are doing is awesome. I know you guys just recently started, but you guys are already up to almost 250 subscribers, right?
Yeah, we're just over 200, and it's slowly. I mean, for a while there, they were kind of ticking every day, and now it's kind of slowing down a little bit. But
yeah,
just like when we were on the first couple of shows ourselves, going to other people's shows, it's just like, I didn't think it was going to stop. It just seemed like we were the hot thing for a few minutes, and now we're kind of calmed down. Now we're focusing back on our shows, and we got people booked all the way into July now.
I know. I was so super honored that you reached out to me a while back, and I was supposed to go to Las Vegas this weekend for the Spaced Out Radio Convention. So I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I might have to, reschedule." But luckily, work called in, and I'm like, "Hey, are you still available, Gerald? I'm ready. I'd rather do an interview with you guys. No offense to Spaced Out Radio, I love them, but the travel and the commute." And with my wife
Right.
and my son, it just to drive over to Vegas for the whole weekend, it's like a 5.5 hour drive, and with all the traffic, I'd rather just save the money and stay home. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Well, I'm glad you kind of relieved. Well, we're going to do a show anyway, and then we found out you're available, and I went, "Oh, cool!"
No, like I said, I'm truly humbled and honored that you guys both had me on. So
Oh, we're glad to
Thank
have you.
you.
I think we saw you on DA one night, the very first time. And that was the first time we ever heard of you. Said, "Oh man, cool. We'll have to check him out sometime." And here you are.
here we are.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
seen you in a lot of chats. You're some of the people that's in this community that I see your name come up in everybody else's chat, and we're all so supportive of each other, and I just love it.
Exactly. And that's the thing is I tried to support all my friends in the cryptid community, just like you guys do. And it's just, with work and life, sometimes you can't make everyone's podcast when they have it, but we always catch the reruns. That's what I love about YouTube is you say you're busy with work or just everyday life. Someone might put out really good evidence. Like I miss Josh Turner's a lot, but yet I still go check his stuff out the day or two after. Or same with DA's. Last night he had the 5,000 subscriber special announcement, and I think I was 2 hours late to it. But hey, we still got to it, So it's not about having to be there when they're doing the live, but it's just no matter what, still supporting people. And that's what I allow at West Coast and any of my little Dogman groups I've created is people to share their podcasts. And no matter what, we're all here to support each other. And I think that the cryptid community now is more supportive in 2023 than they were back in 2016. So a matter of just 7 years. I mean,
Yeah.
You still get those certain pages that will say, "Hey, don't share content unless it's pertaining to this," or certain things like that. But at the same time, it's like we're all here to help each other grow. Bigfoot community, it's probably one of those where they have their way of thinking, and if you don't like the whole Dogman thing, for example, some people in the Bigfoot community don't recognize or respect that the Dogman phenomenon is even real. They just think it's misidentifications. So no matter what, we can't please everybody, but I'd say in 2023, with what you guys are doing, with what I'm doing, and all of our friends doing podcasts on, the unknown, I think right now in 2023, we're supportive of each other, and that's what that's the only way we can move forward. Looking into it. So
Right.
That we were going to start our show off, and we thought we were just going to talk about our interests, but it's so much more fun to have like you guys and all the other people from the community, whether it's from Texas Front Porch, the Blondes and Booze, Jason, and all them, and we got William and Dennis that we're involved with, and and as I say, everybody make sure you go to William and Dennis's channels and check them out and give them some love and shares, and go out the West Coast Dogman Project and go and like and heart and get notifications on his sites. And we just kind of like you, we hop around in all these chats and watch all these shows, and we became friends with everybody, so we just started asking them, "Hey, you want to come on our show and chat, and let's have fun, just be relaxed, and just like we're sitting at the kitchen table talking to everybody." We watched Nana Boss last night, Marty. That was an excellent show with her son out there on the
live investigation last night.
Out there in Florida
awesome.
too. So that was a good one. I caught
that.
the tail end of that. So, but I got to rewatch it from the beginning. But Marty and Matt put out great content. Marty's got great guests on all the time. Matt's kind of doing more of like project work. It seems like he's working on his podcast, but he's out in the field and awesome people. And like you guys said, we hop around and we become friends. Honestly, I feel like I became friends with so many different people that I relate more to them than my own, best friends half the time, So, because it's all tinfoil stuff, and people are like, "Oh, you believe in that?" Well, yeah, I do. I'm looking into something that obviously there's suppressed information, and I think with us being human beings as a species, we're curious creatures. So no matter what, when you say, "Hey, there's bipedal canines and humanoids that live out in the woods," I mean, you're going to want to kind of look into it just a little bit. I mean, obviously from a safe distance, but obviously sightings are increasing. So is the veil really thinning, or these things just getting more used to humans that they're revealing themselves more?
Right. That's the question everyone has, that, is the veil thinning even more? Is CERN doing something, or is more people waking up and not asleep anymore and waking up to their surroundings and what's going on behind the scenes in the world? And they're more aware, raising their vibration, and are able to see these things more. And there are more UFOs also that, they're showing up all over the place up in the sky.
It seems like it's almost on a daily basis that you can go out where you guys live out in the country. You might see better because of the light pollution. I mean, where I'm at,
Right.
I live in a town of 400,000 people. So you really have to travel through the mountains roughly to, get, see the constellations or the skyline. But no matter what, you go out there. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with Brown Dwarf. He's out here in California.
Yeah.
Yep. We know Brown Dwarf.
Yeah. So he was just up at the Black Star Canyon last night, but he was posting evidence of what a lot of UFO sightings. I think he was out there with a group from MUFON. I didn't really get to catch up on too much of his stuff, just being busy, but I did see it on the notifications that he was out in Black Star Canyon investigating UFO sightings out in Southern California. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I saw the notification, but we were busy watching a couple people on that. Well, a few people were on last night. Right.
Seems like everyone's got, especially the weekend time. It's like everyone's got something going on, So
that's
trying to catch it live.
That's why we're picking weird times to be on. Nobody else is on right now, so we're like the precursor to everybody else.
I like how you guys are doing it, though. You're doing it on a Sunday evening. Most people are home by now eating dinner or just relaxing, getting ready for the work week. So this is a perfect time slot for you guys to do it, honestly, because I do mine on Thursdays roughly with the Dogman interviews, but also I found out it was conflicting with the Blondes and Booze, so unfortunately I missed theirs and they missed mine. And I know Krista was telling me a while back, she's like, I'm sorry I missed your podcast. I'm like, oh, no worries. I try to do mine around from DA so I'm not interflicting with his, so I can catch his in the chat. But we recently
there's so many on at the same time, and then we tried a Wednesday night, Thursday morning, 12:30, past midnight, 12:30. We're getting quite a few people. There's all kinds of late owls out there.
And there is a lot of people that, either work the night shift or just have a hard time going to bed at night. I'm one of them.
Right.
So I try to knock out before 9 because I got to be up at 3. But there's times I'll be up on my phone till 11:30, 12 o'clock just watching podcasts. So what you guys are doing is awesome, man.
Thank you.
Much love and appreciation to you guys.
There's William telling you to contact MUFON.
The contact I still got to do the rebobs. I remember he did a podcast, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, looking into the devil monkeys and into the Gugway, I believe, that were out here in California in the 80s. William, I just want to apologize, brother. I've been extremely busy, so I haven't had time to really look into that. But I got you on my schedule, and eventually I'll get to that, and I'll let you know what I find.
Well, there's Krista right there from Blondes and Booze. See everybody.
Hey, Krista.
Everybody's going to everybody else's shows and showing up in chat and sharing the love.
She must be over at Williamson, right? Yeah.
Hey,
hi, Krista. And we got William, we've got Maggie, Marty, the Nana boss is in here. We've got Raven, we've got Jimbo, we got Cynthia, we have Gary, we got Tracy Hall, and over on Williams, I'm not sure. I think Werewolf is over there.
Yeah, Werewolf, Raven.
Yeah, Raven's over here. Yeah, we've got quite a few watching right now. Thank you, everyone. Welcome.
Thank you.
I guess everyone in chat already knows Shane.
Like I said, we're all friends in this community, and that's what we all show up for each other when we can. And if you can't, hey, no big deal.
Yeah, you just put it on watch later and just watch it later.
I think I've got a laundry list of ones I've still got to watch. I still miss Josh's on Tuesday, and I think I still got to watch his live on Friday night. And he goes 3.5 hours. So perfect day for me at work is, I get to work around roughly 5 o'clock in the morning, throw a podcast on, and I just put it in my ear and I listen to it for 2-3 hours. So I'm constantly. What was that?
I was gonna say, you're talking about Josh, the Paranormal Roundtable.
Yeah, with PRT, Josh Turner. Yeah. So I always catch his stuff, but it's always after because Friday nights, normally I'm, spend time with the family or listening to another podcast or something, but I'm always just trying to be active. And like I say, there's 24 hours out of the day. So, I mean, to really dedicate your time to it with family and, work and personal, hobbies, I try to at least dedicate an hour or two today at work, just listening to cryptids or just reading up on something, mainly Dogman, but I'll try to always reshare it and just try to get it out there. It might be something that someone might, 2 weeks down the road might come across your page and be like, hey, this looks interesting, and maybe watch it or read it. So just trying to spread awareness. That's what my big thing is spreading awareness.
Right.
Yep.
That's what we're doing. Just
Yeah.
spread awareness, have everyone have open minds. We're not saying we're experts and believe in everything. Our rabbit holes turn, a lot of times when we find out you have more questions and more questions. And so we don't know the answers. We're just trying to get more people awake.
And exactly. And that's what DA even says. There's no experts in these fields. And that's one thing I, hold true to my heart, because I have a buddy that calls me an expert. And I'm like, I'm not an expert, buddy. I've only been doing this for a year and a half. I soak up a lot of knowledge. I call myself a human sponge. So I'll read, 300 theories, let's just say, and I just take it all in. And some of them are just so out there where you scratch your head. But then again, you can't really disprove anything because it's not, proven by science. So when you see, like, I listened to the most strange encounter I've heard that came off Vic's show out here in California, where there's been dogman sightings out near the Joshua Tree National Forest. And this gentleman was driving down the road at 2:00 in the morning, cruising at 15 miles per hour. And all of a sudden a blue portal opened up off the side of the road, and out came these dogmen in suits in formation. The guy was like, I was not on drugs or anything, but it was so bizarre. So, I mean, things like that are just so head scratching. So obviously there's got to be a paranormal side to these cryptids other than, just them being flesh and blood. I've always been on the flesh and blood side of these creatures, but you hear so many different encounters or theories that these people say, well, these things are portal hopping or going through where you only see the one print and they just disappear. So are they jumping through portals? Scott Carpenter's got some really good footage on his channel where it almost looks like a water, like a circular veil almost, where it looks like water, and you see this humanoid looking creature walk out of it. So it's just mind boggling, and it's so tin foil, but that's why I always try to tell people, hey, you've got to keep an open mind to this stuff, because obviously these things aren't supposed to exist, but yet history and, the natives, it goes back thousands of years where they've seen these things. I mean, the dogman name for, I want to say the Algonquin, is the Ulonga Duglala, which DA states in his books as these beings, which in their culture, the name means spirit with knife teeth, just like the Janoskwa and the Chiatonka, with being the Sasquatch. So obviously there's some information there. I don't believe it's all folklore. I mean, if you want to go jump down another rabbit hole, the Beast of Shevadon, did a creature that looked like a hyena back in the 1700s that killed so many people, in the French countryside. I believe it was over 100. And I know people like Jessica Jones have recently just, remote viewed it. And there's so many different rabbit holes on that. What it could have been. Could it have been a loose hyena? Could it have been an actual dogman? Could it have been a Black Panther, because the tail obviously had a curve to it? So but obviously the statue is there. So obviously something had to have happened in the 1700s out there in France.
Right.
So, I mean, there's evidence all around us.
I mean, that's the way I was growing up. We here in Illinois, we had reportings on, and actually on the radio stations, they would come across and say, Thunderbirds, there's a Thunderbird sighting. They tell a story about somebody's experience. And then there was also Bigfoot sightings, and they have it actually on the AM radio as we're traveling around with mom and dad going places. So I always thought they were just flesh and blood, Now the more I'm digging into it, you hear all these stories, about using portals and, working with the other cryptids, how they, whether it's elementals or other dogmen, and everything's just all connected. And we're just finding more and more about how they're using, whether multi-dimensional facets or supernatural abilities, whatever it is, nobody really knows for sure, but there has to be something to all this.
They're able to cloak out and disappear right in front of you. So that's just makes everyone scratch their head thinking, okay, I'm crazy. What did I just see?
Exactly. I mean, there's been videographic evidence of, for example, Dogman out, or not Dogman, but Sasquatch in Colorado. There's this one camera where the wind's not blowing, but yet you see this almost like Predator, how he cloaks himself, move along the tree line. And Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization actually shared it. And you see this thing move. But I mean, obviously, there's not 100% evidence of this. Hey, this is a Sasquatch being cloaked, but you clearly see something move in the tree line. And obviously, there's been Dogman sightings where they go and they cloak themselves, and it's just a blur that moves along. So you're going to have the naysayers that say, "Oh, you're just seeing things," but obviously, people that go out in the field as field investigators, I've had buddies that have had their electronics all of a sudden malfunction within full charge batteries. So do these things disrupt the electromagnetic field? I mean, that's a very good theory that it's happened to multiple people. So if it happened to one person, I'd be like, oh, okay, maybe you forgot to charge. But when you have hundreds of investigators or just a handful of investigators that are witnessing the same exact problem, obviously there's some correlation to it.
Right. We had ATN night vision binoculars fry out because I was checking out a square portal looking thing that was moving along the tree line, getting ready to record it, and just fried out our binoculars. And they're not cheap. And I could not turn them on. The company couldn't fix them. They sent us a new one. So yeah, we
Wow.
found out ourselves. Yeah, it just fried out our binoculars.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, one of my good buddies who got me into the whole Dogman, he said he's been bluff charged and full on batteries going out into the Daniel Boone out there in Kentucky. And within 20 minutes, both of his batteries are fried, totally dead. Hey, there's got to be something to it. And then I start looking into, okay, maybe it's something to do with the humidity. Obviously not. So he's like, no, there's no humidity. He's like, I've gone in the woods before when the dead of summer, 100% humidity, and my batteries last me 3-4 hours. So there's got to be something
Flashlights
to
go out, phones go out, everything goes out with all you investigators out in the field.
Exactly. I haven't had that issue luckily yet. I hope I never do, but I'm bound to happen because I have a 4K camera I'm waiting to take out into the trees. And, I'm not one to be posting photos because I got away from that for a while because of the ridicule, but I recently started getting back into it. And, I'll tell someone if I see something, but then again, if I didn't witness a Dogman, I can't say, hey, this is what I saw. It's just the type of investigation. What got me into the field was the photos where people are going out into the wood line, like my buddy Paul out there in Kentucky. He goes and just records it and then goes back and reviews the footage later. And then, it takes him 12 hours to review a 3-minute video, and he'll circle what he thinks he sees and then let the, eyewitness people on his Facebook page, think what they see. Well, what do you guys think? 30 people might see the same exact thing, but then you get those 1 or 2 that don't see it. See, I was sharing evidence like that and I got butchered in the community. Okay, well, I'm going to be more on the evidence side. So I started doing that. But recently I've been trying to get back into the footage because that's what got me into the whole field. And, I share hey, this is what I think I see, not claiming it's ever a Dogman, or it's more than likely pareidolia. And that's the thing we got to deal with this, unfortunately in the field is the pareidolia, the red circles. And it's different if someone goes out into a tree line and just snaps photos and, takes 300 photos of just the tree line and says, hey, there's 20 Dogmen right here. But I mean, did they actually witness it or not? To me, someone that's more believable is someone that's actually in the woods and said, hey, I saw this, it ran by me, I took out my phone, snapped 4 pictures, and this is what I got. I mean, that would be more credible, I guess you could say, as evidence when it comes to photographs. So DA taught me one thing real quick is that you can have the clearest photo of a Dogman holding a sign saying, hey, I'm a Dogman, and you're still going to get naysayers saying it's a dude in a costume. So we can't make everybody happy in this field. So really at the end of the day, it's doing what you enjoy doing. Me, I love being out in the woods, being away from, social media and just being out one with nature. And if I happen to, stumble across, a Dogman or a clan of Sasquatch, I think to me, that's more gold than I think actually getting $1 million photo,
Right.
My whole thing is I want to see a Dogman or a pack of Dogmen just to prove to myself that these things do exist, because I do believe they do. But I think eyewitness testimony to me is the number one key we have to, getting answers, is what people are seeing. And there's vast sightings all throughout the country of these things all the way since 1887. And it just seems like the sightings are increasing more and more each year.
Now, when you said that someone saw them coming out with suits, are you talking about suits or are you talking about like a military suit type?
They looked from according to the eyewitness. I don't remember what episode it was, but it was on Vic Cundiff's channel. But it was in the Joshua Tree National Forest, and he was driving, and he said this portal opened up, and I think it was in rows of 6. These dog-like creatures. They looked like they were the hyena variants, but they were in. They looked like spacesuits almost, but they were running out in formation, and they just like they stopped, and it was just the craziest thing. I'm just like, that has got to be some really good drug that guy is on, or he's actually witnessed this. And it seems like, Vic kind of, does his, research and, checking people out to see if they're credible or not. This gentleman obviously, checked the box and was able to come on the show and explain what he had seen. And it's just one of those that you don't just cast off to the side saying this guy's, nuts. It's one of those where you got to circle it and be like, put it in the unknown. Like, that's a different theory, but obviously these things have been seen, I guess, in suits. That's one of 3 that I think I've heard of, but it's just so head scratching. You're just like, what is it? Obviously there's a paranormal aspect to these things.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people seeing them in military gear, there's super soldiers.
Yes. And that's the thing. I try to keep an open mind that the government uses these things, or they, clone them and they use them for, military purposes. Is it, part of me wants to, lean on the side of it's creepy pasta to make, clickbait for subscribers or people that want to hear the creepy Dogman encounters. But at the same time, we can't really, not to say this to try to get you guys kicked off YouTube, but it's like, obviously the government isn't going to tell us everything that they do. They do suppress us, the public, with what they're doing, because they don't want the mass fear, the mass, how would you say, almost like the mass, I can't even think of the word really to say. It's more like just the obstructions of people, just the mass hysteria, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like when you go out into the woods, obviously they're not going to say, hey, there's 9-foot tall dogman or Sasquatch in a certain area, because obviously that affects the revenue for the national parks. So of course they're going to say, this doesn't exist. But then again, they're not going to release information what they're working on. Just like with the UFOs, they got was it the TR-3B? I think that pyramid looking shaped UFO that's been seen on a ship. I mean, they're not going to say that, hey, we got this. So it's more to suppress information.
They're not going to admit to all these lies. And even with Dogman and Sasquatch, they would have to come out and say, yeah, we've known about them for years. We just didn't tell you.
Exactly.
Now, Krista wants to know if you're going to be at the Dogman conference in Texas.
I really want to try, Krista. I really want to try to be there, but that's the week of my anniversary, so I can't make any promises. I've been trying to talk to Lisa, and we're still kind of like 50-50. She's like, I don't know. We'll have to see come September, but I know tickets are going by fast, and I would love to be there. I told Josh I would try to be there. It's just time and money and work. It's just, I'm hoping I'll be able to fly out just for a day at least, but that's up to the wife,
Now, we've been talking about, the government and all this other stuff, but what do you really, what's your opinion on what a dogman really is? Do you think it was here originally as an indigenous species, or was it an alien species that came here and then evolved and the government tried to do stuff with it? Or what's your theory on it?
I do believe they've been here for, since the creation of time, or since the dawn of time, just because the native lore, they've seen these things. And like we had stated earlier, I think it's the Algonquin or the Cherokee, they call them the Oolanga Duglala. They obviously had names for them, just like the Chiatonka and the Janoskwa up in northern Canada. So the natives, that's the only thing, is we'll never get our full information because the native tribes don't want to talk about these things, or will not be open up to it. I've tried reaching out to 2 local tribes here in California in my general area to try to, just not to ask them, hey, do you believe in dogmen? But I try to just get to know and kind of pry a little bit to learn more about their history. And none of them I never get a phone call back. And it's like, oh, this crazy Hawaiian kid, they're not going to talk to this guy. So, we almost have to just crumble that piece of paper up and just toss it to the side. Obviously, there's something there. I mean, maybe it could be folklore, but there's got to be something to it, because the sightings have date back over 1,000 years of these creatures, the dogmen. My personal belief is that they are here since the dawn of time, and they are flesh and blood, but there is a paranormal aspect to these things, because Nick Valente did I think he, took all these Dogman sightings that he had reported or had been received, and I think it was close to 90% all had a UFO sighting certain or right after the sighting of a Dogman. Don't quote me on it, but I remember on a certain podcast he was stating that. So I think Josh Turner, when he had a Dogman encounter back when he was younger, there was a UFO sighting right after. So are these things interdimensional? There's got to be something to it, to where, like Jane had said earlier, it's all, together. It's all combined together. There's a correlation to it. So like I said, I keep an open mind to whether they are flesh and blood. I'm more on the flesh and blood side, but the reason why I say that is when you see them feasting on a deer carcass, or they're on the side of the road and someone's traveling home late at night and the thing walks into the corn or into the tree line, obviously they're flesh and blood. But when you shoot at these things and these things don't have any blood that spews out from them, there's got to be a paranormal aspect to it. So that's the answers I'm trying to dive deeper and deeper in as, my research grows into this phenomenon. And, one day down the road, 10 years from now, when the new generation is starting up and curious about these things, I could tell them, the new wave of young people, that, hey, this is what I came up with. It's all theory based, but, take what you want from it.
Now, there's a question on the screen right now. He wants to know if you think Dogman applies to one specific creature, or is it a wide term? Is there different, like, is there a southern Dogman with northern Dogman? Like we have, a swamp ape for Sasquatch. Is there different characteristics to describe them in certain areas, or are they just all one term for everything?
There's a chart out there that Gerald, I'm pretty sure you both have seen it. It shows the 7 variants of Dogman.
Yeah.
And the top 3 are the ones that have the chow-like face, but have the hominid type leg structure, which means, just regular human-like leg structures. I believe those, to me, I've talked to DA about this, and I'm on the side of those are misidentified Gugway sightings, because they have the mandrill-looking type snout, but the human-like leg structures. Every Dogman encounter or I've came across or read, they all have the digitigrade type leg structures. Not to say that all Dogmen have those, but I would say 85% of the reports I've read, all Dogmen have the backwards bending knee type legs. So are these misidentified Sasquatch or Gugway sightings? That's the thing I think of. And there's not a particular Dogman in certain areas around the United States, but because there's been the hyena variant that's been seen out here in the Southwest near Arizona and along the border, but yet they've also been seen in Pennsylvania and Ohio and down in the South. So you get the type 3 variants that have been seen in Northern California all the way up to Washington, but yet they've been seen in, Mississippi. So I don't believe there is a certain, I like to say breed, because I hate saying variant, because I do think these things are like normal dogs. They're a breed. And I do believe they do interbreed to where you might get a certain type that have the German Shepherd type head, or there's obviously different breeds of these creatures because they've been seen with different types of heads or looks to them, the hyena, the wolf-like, but there's not a certain geographical area we're going to find one compared to like a certain Sasquatch. The skunk apes are obviously, down in Florida compared to seeing a patty type in Northern California. 2 different, looking Sasquatch.
Right.
Have you heard of any stories of them actually being in a pack of a family and having cubs, babies?
Are you talking about the Sasquatch or the Dogman?
No, Dogman. I mean, do Dogman, have you seen little Dogman? I mean, do they run in families, a pack?
So that's the thing is there's no evidence behind it, but from eyewitness testimonies is I've actually came across multiple encounters where they've actually been seen. And that's where you get the more territorial type Dogman, is when someone stumbles across and they see a 4 or 5 foot tall wolf, but then it stands on its 2 legs. And they say that the younger ones are more curious. But when you see the mom, obviously, just like with Sasquatch, they get more territorial. Just like that video that came out in Northern California last year. You both have probably seen it, where this hiker is walking down a tree line and he stumbles across a baby mountain lion, and all of a sudden the mom comes out and is almost ready to attack this guy, and he's backing up, throwing rocks at it. So that's the thing, is that there's been encounters where people have seen these young pups that are more curious, trying to learn the ways, and people stumble across them when they're out in the woods. So I mean, I do believe they are a backpack creature, just like the clans of Sasquatch that are seen.
Yeah, because a lot of people see young Sasquatch or a female Sasquatch holding a baby. I just wondered how often someone sees a young dog man, with the female dog man.
Yeah.
Female man.
The female dog man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's been
Dog
multiple.
female.
Yeah, the dog women.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they've been seen, but it's not in vast majority of sightings are within 10 seconds. Most of the times, what got me really into believing in the dogman phenomenon was the everyday people that were driving down the freeway late at night or during the day, and they see this bipedal wolf jump across the road, or it's stand on two legs. And it's now if it was 1 to 2 people saying, "Oh, I saw this giant wolf stand on 2 legs and walk into the tree line," I mean, that could have been a misidentified bear sighting, because bears have been known to stand up on 2 legs for long periods of times and not walk as far a distance, but walk a good distance and, be on the back leg. So that's the thing that we have to work, really deal with in the dogman community is misidentifications. That's the number one.
Mhm.
But when you hear people say, the thing had a snout, it had the backwards bending leg, it had a human-like torso. I mean, unless they're making this up for 5 minutes of fame, this has obviously been seen all throughout the United States. So
Mhm.
I'm going to take someone's belief, or they're saying that this is what I saw, into account. Like, hey, this person actually did see something. So compared to just saying, "Oh, I just saw it and it ran across the road," well, it could have been a Sasquatch, it could have been anything. But when they get down into detail, obviously there was something that they've seen, and that's what they're describing. It fits the category of dogman. So
Now,
that's what gets me into it.
do you think dogmen are using portals like we think Bigfoot and Sasquatch are? Or are they going into another dimension? Are they going through portal to back to where they're habitate with their families? Maybe that's why we don't see their families, because they're on the other side of the dimension, or are they here all the time on Earth? What do you think about that?
I do believe that they do. There's certain ones that do obviously travel through portals. Just because I've talked to and interviewed a couple eyewitnesses that have seen them, that literally they were out in the woods in New York and they heard something running up on them, and all of a sudden it just disappeared. And they're like, "What the heck was that?" And all of a sudden, about a quarter mile down the road, all of a sudden they heard a howl, the same howl they heard recently, but they had to have jumped through a portal, because there's no way physically that something that big can move that quick within a matter of 5 seconds. It'd just be that far away. But I'm on more the side of I keep an open mind to the interdimensional beings, but I do believe that if you match up the missing 411 reports and the mapping of it with the underground cave systems, they almost they're identical almost. So I do believe that dogmen do live, just like with Sasquatch. I do believe they live either underground or in underground caves.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the missing 411, and it just kind of dawns on us that if they cloak out, they can easily grab a person or a young child. And I'm wondering, when they do, that they're cloaked also. So when the family goes around the turn, they can't find their child or the missing family member. Well, they're kind of right in front of you because they're cloaked with this being that grabbed them. Could that be a possibility to you?
That's a very good possibility. Honestly, I don't think that a lot of the missing 411s are all cryptid related. There's some paranormal aspect to it, but then again, we've got to look at the actual evidence in front of us. Sometimes these people, lack of water after just a day or two, make someone go hysterical, and then they start thinking crazy, or they might. We got to think of the temperatures. Obviously, when at nighttime, temperatures in these national parks drop way below certain degrees to where our body just starts, not thinking straight, to where these people will just wander off, and they might be where they find the bodies within less than a mile from where these people, went missing pretty much. So my whole thing is, I do believe some of it is cryptid, but I don't believe everything. And I don't believe everything's dogman. I believe, if anything, there's more reports of Sasquatch abducting young kids, if you listen to David Pilates, I listen to him religiously, but this one little boy that just went missing, I want to say it was like 1930 or 1940. And they found him. He was 7 miles away from where he originally went missing. But he said that the big hairy man, kept him warm and fed him and stuff, but they found him like a week later. And that was just so mind-boggling.
Right.
So, but then a part of me does think that the missing 411, a lot of it is, paranormal, whether it be UFOs abducting humans. Because, I mean, if you want to jump down another rabbit hole, Dwight Eisenhower in 1954 signed that deal with the Greys out here in California. I want to say it was Palm Springs, where he went missing for a 12-hour time frame. But yet, in exchange for government technology or technological advanced weapons and technology itself, they can abduct so many humans a year. So when these
Right.
people that go missing, do they use them for genetic purposes? I don't. The weirdest story I ever heard was a gentleman that was skiing in New York was found out in California 2 weeks later, and he had literally no clothes on, and he's like, "How did I get out here?" I mean, one of those things. I mean, there's got to be something to it. I mean, someone's not going to just abandon themselves, drive clear across 3,000 miles to the West Coast, and just say, hey, drop their clothes off and start putting their thumb out on the side of the road, saying, "Hey, pick me up," get me back to New York. Obviously, there's something to it. So,
Right.
that's what gets me about it. So I do believe that it's not all cryptid. There is some paranormal aspect to it, but a majority of the 411s, I do believe it's just people not being prepared, and they get, off trail, and they don't know. I think you get more novice hikers than that claim that they're, adventurous and, they're experts in these fields, but then they go, half a mile off the trail and they become hysterical, and delusional after a certain amount of time.
Right. I mean, you got to take in effect, you got serial killers, you got sex traffickers, you got all this stuff, plus, and there might be a small percentage that might be a Sasquatch, it's somebody in the wrong place, wrong time.
A gray.
Gray aliens, other alien species that show up, they're curious too, and they're allowed to take humans. I mean, there's just all these factors that you got to look into. So it's not, you can't always say, okay,
right,
Dogman kills everybody, Sasquatch kills everybody.
They could have walked into a portal and wasn't able to come out.
Exactly. And like you guys had, like Gerald just stated just a second ago, was out here in California, for example, is a lot of people do go missing out in the woods, but a lot of it, like in Northern California, Humboldt County is huge on the marijuana and legalized and smoking, but you get a lot of these cartels and gangs that will go deep into these forests and plant their pot and their marijuana plants, and you have armed guards that are monitoring the area. You might just be an everyday hiker, you might stumble across their pot farm and you go end up missing, and people might think, oh, hey, it was a cryptid. No, I mean, you got to think of the everyday things. So we do have a lot of illegal activities that do go off in the woods.
Yeah, that's what is that? Killing Mountain? I can't remember what that show was about, that pot place up in the west coast that either you work for them or you die.
Exactly. That's the thing. And as much as I try to not think about that, it's something you have to think about. It could be anywhere in the United States, but here in California, we've got a lot of the cartels that travel deep into the woods or out into the desert, and will plant their illegal drugs. And the thing is that me, like being an adventurous myself, I like to go hiking deep in the woods, and hopefully I never stumble across that. Hopefully I'll run into a clan of Sasquatch or a pack of Dogmen, and not an AK-47 to my face saying, "What are you doing here?"
Now we obviously talking to William, and we talked to Travis Moose about stories and stuff. Now, do you think there's a connection with Sasquatch and Dogman? Are they enemies of each other? Do they work together, or is it just some of them are friendly, some of them aren't?
And that's the thing, it's all theory based, you guys, and you might have heard certain encounters where the Dogman and the Sasquatch coexist. Me personally, my belief is that the ones that coexist, that work together, are the strays. So I try to think of it like a pack of wolves. So obviously the weak, the old weak ones get casted off of the pack. So you get these rogue Dogmen, I believe, that get to a certain age, and maybe there's a rogue Sasquatch that was kicked out of the clan. Maybe they coexist together just for survival. But with these things both being apex predators in the woods, I mean, you got a 9 to 10 foot Sasquatch and a Dogman with razor sharp teeth and claws and speed. These things, I almost fight for territory almost. And Jeremiah Fountain, a good buddy of mine, he's with the International Dogman Project out there in New York. He says that on his property, he's actually noticed this, is that, I think it's during the wintertime, the Sasquatch leave and the Dogmen move into the area. So right there shows me that they're a territorial type aspect to these things. Same with the LBL. Obviously, the north side's totally quiet. You don't hear birds or crickets chirping or doing anything. That's the Dogman territory. But if you go south of the LBL, that's all Sasquatch territory. So I do believe that if you look at these things as a flesh and blood entity, that they are territorial.
So
That's just my personal belief.
do you think the dogmen are like are they act like animals, or do you think there's a higher consciousness to them? I mean, because everybody always talks about Sasquatch building huts and marking
Yes.
trails and putting X's. Do dogmen do the same kind of thing? Do they have habits like that or characteristics like that?
Yes. So a good buddy of mine told me that, obviously if you guys have jumped down the Sasquatch, aspect of the Sasquatch build tree structures that are intricately woven, that are real pretty, looking huts and just tree structures, to where the dogmen have more of the primitive type, I guess you could say, characteristics. And I found a couple of different looking dens in my research area that were just thrown together. And I've sent it to a lot of investigators and researchers. And a couple of them all said, or most of them said, that they look more primitive, like a dogman would do, where they take just loose branches and leaves and string them together. But one thing that stands out with the dogman is that my buddy Al Santariga, who's in New York, said that they dig at a 45-degree angle. So a dogman will literally dig at a 45-degree angle, crouch down in there, and then wait for any deer or any type of wildlife that crosses by it to where they can spring out on it. Kind of like what those burrowing tarantulas will do, is that they'll burrow themselves in, and then when they see the prey come by, they'll just jump out at it and then go back in. So, I mean, right there is two different things with the Sasquatch and the dogmen. One thing I always just thought, dogmen are, just these wolves with just a higher intelligence, but obviously they've been seen in trees. So
Yeah.
your canine species doesn't really climb in trees. So are these things, do they have more of a feline like genetic to them to where they can climb in trees and they're spotted in trees? I mean, like I said, there's so many different theories that we can go down. My personal belief is that they do have a intelligence to them, just like the Sasquatch. And when they want to reveal themselves to you, they'll let you see them. But at the same time, they're hide and seek champions, just like the Sasquatch.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of the cryptids have that characteristic, whether they use the portals to zip in and out and get around, or they're just very good at hiding in their environment, and we've talked on other shows, and other people have the same idea, like Sasquatch can, with the help of elementals, and William brought that out on a podcast not too long ago, that the elementals help them, since they were original indigenous people, that they'll help them open up the trees and be able to disappear in the trees, and go in and other, the rocks and landscape, they're able to use all this.
Well, that's one thing that Williams taught me a while back on a podcast that he did. I want to say probably 5 or 6 months ago, is going out there and, like Jane had said, being on the same frequency, on the same vibration level as these things. And I never thought, me just going out into the woods, got all these recording devices on me. I'm thinking I'm going to get the $1 million footage, but like William had taught me, was these things will reveal themselves to you when they want to, but try to become one with earth. So before I, next time I go out into the woods and actually investigate, take your shoes off, take your socks off, because obviously we have rubber at the bottom of our, shoes. What does that conduct? It doesn't conduct electricity, but when you feel, flesh with, Mother Earth, when you're one with Mother Earth, you almost tap into that frequency level. And, obviously go in there with a good intent, scrub yourself with sage and burn some sage is one thing that Williams taught me. Something I still have yet to do, because I still haven't gone out in the woods in the last few months as much as I want to go. But next time I do go in, that's what I do plan on doing, is taking off my hiking boots and just sitting there praying to our Creator. Or, my personal aspect is I'm a Christian. I pray to our Heavenly Father, and just try to adapt, try to find that frequency level, and just so I can see these things. And maybe after I do see one, a Sasquatch or a dogman, maybe I'll just back out of the field completely and just be like, hey, I've seen it, go find a new hobby to do. But till then, we don't know.
That's another thing, me and Jane work on trying to raise our consciousness and, get a higher frequency. And, and if you go out in the field, obviously humans have a different frequency than these, whether it's Sasquatch, Dogman, any cryptid out there. Obviously, a lot of them, especially if they have, a dimensional ability or supernatural, they're obviously going to be at a higher frequency or consciousness than we are. So they're going to perceive you coming, no matter how quiet, how sneaky you are, or whatever, they're just automatically going to know that you're in their area. And that's why I
Exactly.
think a lot of times we don't get to see them.
Right. They know your intentions.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing I've been told is by lots of investigators when I was first getting started in this field was that these things will know when you're there before you even know you're even there. So or
Yeah.
before you even step ground into the trees, they know you're there. And when they want to reveal themselves to you, they'll reveal themselves to you in three different ways. One, if you're too close and say they have young, and then they'll start giving you like tree knocks if it's Sasquatch, or throwing rocks at you, or you start getting bluff charged by a wolf-like creature, or just you hear the guttural growls. You're obviously infringing too close to their, because when we go out there, we're in their property. It'd be like someone walking to your guys' house right now and being like, "Hey, Jane and Gerald, I'm gonna go sit on your bed right now if you don't mind." Obviously, you guys would be pissed off and maybe fire a few shots at it, or give them warning that you're too close, So obviously, we got to think of that type of aspect. And when we're out there, we have to respect their boundaries and know when it's your sixth instinct, sixth sense kicks in and say, okay, I'm too far, back out, because they will give you
I
a
agree.
sign. They will definitely give you a sign.
Oh yeah. Yep, they know us coming and going. And like I said, that's why we're trying to raise our consciousness so we're more open to all this stuff.
Exactly.
Maybe they'll be able to, they obviously know our intentions because we don't want to harm any creature or any cryptid or anything. We just want to know more about it and investigate it and hear the stories that, like you have or all these other investigators. I mean, there's just so many neat stories, whether about portals, UFOs, cryptids, just all of them. It's just all so fascinating.
It is. It really is. That's why I'm currently talking to a gentleman out here in California. Santa Cruz is it's called Surf City, USA out here in California, but it's also, they've got a mountain range called the Santa Cruz Mountains. And there was a gentleman that not too long ago, I'd say about 4 years ago, had a Dogman encounter when he was out there. So I pieced that together with what I've heard on Vic's show. There's a former police officer that had seen, two werewolf-like creatures in the same exact mountain range. And this gentleman, before he had his foot amputated last year, said he had seen it right before his surgery, and we were going to do an investigation together. But since he's currently like recovering and on disability, we've kind of put that on hold right now. But as soon as he said he receives his prosthetic, I'm going to drive up there with a team of myself and maybe 2 other investigators and go check the area out. Obviously, we won't see any evidence of the thing right then and there because this happened over a year ago, but we're going to check out the exact area where the gentleman had seen this Dogman-like creature. So that's one thing we've got going on right now on the Region 1 side of the North American Dogman Project, is we're kind of just at a standstill with that. So that's one investigation that I've got on pause that I'm like sitting here ready to just go, But then we did a recent investigation out in December down in Southern California. I was telling you guys backstage before we went live. But Daryl Denton from Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures, this gentleman was hitting him up and was like, "Hey man, I'm seeing these dogmen on my, airstrip," because he lives on a, airstrip out near Mount Rubidoux. And so to sum up the story, a buddy of mine and my wife, we all went out there to investigate the area, interview the homeless. Only 2 of the homeless really talked. One of them that really stood out to me was that they saw 2 creatures down in the river. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this gentleman's seeing something, but we checked out the whole area. We didn't see any physical evidence of dogmen, but there was an investigation. But I did call Daryl up afterwards and was telling him, we didn't see evidence of dogmen, but doing more research on the area, the Mount Rubidoux itself was actually used during Prohibition, where they would smuggle alcohol through and in and out through the mountain. And there's reported hikers, even to this day, when they're hiking up towards the top of this mountain, rocks have been thrown at them. They've seen glyphs built up on the side of the trail. So me personally, I think that's more Sasquatch-like, because dogmen don't stack. Maybe they do make glyphs, but everything's, to me, kind of steamed towards the Sasquatch. So
Right. Yeah.
Any feral people known to be up high in the mountains in California?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm pretty sure we do have them. It's probably not as bad as in the Appalachian Trail where you see them or you hear multiple encounters. I mean, our big problem out here is the homeless being on meth or, laced with something like a good fentanyl or something. It's just, they're crazy out here. So the feral people, we don't really get that too much. It's just more the homeless we got to deal with in the LA area and more like San Francisco. But most of the time it's they're nothing crazy like a feral person. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad enough you encounter wildlife, then you got to worry about cryptids. Now you got feral people out there
Yeah.
on crack
Exactly.
or whatever.
Crack for
Right.
people.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's my big thing when I'm out in the woods is my main thing is, obviously my safety and my wife's safety, but looking out for mountain lions, black bears, and, the everyday, threats that we have to deal with. I mean, eventually the Sasquatch will let you know if you're too close. Same with the dogman. Like my area I go research at had 4 to 5 sightings of dogmen within the last 7 years. So, and it's not too far from Yosemite National Park. If you guys listen to David Pilates, I believe Yosemite is the #1 in the country with the most missing 411s. And in the area I research is off of Dinky Creek Road. And Dinky Creek Road has a lot of people that go missing due to 411 cases, whether it be just they leave their car's found, but the person's never found. So we definitely go in armed. My wife and I do go traveling. I do pack a little bit with me. And, we don't go too far, but the farthest we'll go is about 3 to 4 miles in. And I do put tree markers up with neon green ribbon. So I kind of make a trail where I'm going in and out of. We never try to venture too far off the trail either. So
Any stories of little people?
Not that I've ever came across, not out here where my research area. So, but I've heard that there is, in Hawaiian culture over in Hawaii, they do have, reports of the little people. And then that's one thing that stood out to me is because, being the Region 1 director for the North American Dogman Project, I'm thinking there's no dogman in Hawaii. You're on an island 5,000 miles away from civilization, really. But they've had reported cowpay sightings. And the cowpay is a word that they use in Hawaii for werewolf. And it's almost like a skinwalker. So if you look at it through the whole world geographically, there is reports of werewolves in every culture. And theirs is almost similar to how you become a skinwalker. You have to do something so vicious and so cruel and dark to become one of these things. So, but yet they've been cited and it's in their lore. So not something I can just kick off to the side and say, hey, dogmen don't go vacation in Hawaii. So definitely just got to add it to the theories, pile. Say, hey, they've obviously seen something over there. So,
well, Australia has sightings, so that's an island. They got there somehow also.
Exactly. So that's where I'm thinking, they didn't just travel over on boat, but if they did, that's why I don't ever kick a werewolf encounter. As much as I try not to say that it's real, there's got to be some truth to the werewolf lore, just like with the skinwalkers. If these things can shapeshift into these beings by wearing the pelts of a wolf or a fox, obviously there's got to be some dark magic to the werewolf lore. So are these things coming over on boat or are they interdimensional? But was it John Kershaw with Creepers and Cryptids Paranormal out there in Australia? Got that one where he was on his kayak, took a picture of it, and you see half of its face popping out of the brush. So, I mean, that's probably one of the best evidence of photos that we have around the world of a dogman.
Yeah, portal hopping.
Yeah, if they're able to use portals, they can go wherever they want. They could go over to Hawaii, and be there.
Exactly. That's why I try to keep an open theory to that, like thinking, okay, there's none, according to the recent NADP website encounters chart, Hawaii doesn't have one. I think Alaska has 1 or 2, but I would think that there'd be a lot more in Alaska, but there's not a huge population that lives in Alaska. And if they do, they live in the major city like Juneau or Anchorage, not out, 300 miles away from the nearest town, just like there's a lot of, Bigfoot sightings in Alaska. So that's where I'm thinking there's got to be dogmen in the area, but these things are all, to me personally, I think they're all territorial. So,
maybe that's why all the pictures are blurry and like you see Sasquatch hiding in the trees or the bush, and you just see like a shadow or a dark spot. You got to try to figure out, what that is. Maybe it's because they're behind their, going in and out of a portal, or they're not quite adjusted to this realm yet, or whatever. Maybe they're half in, half out, and glitching, and that's why you don't see the exact body image of them.
Exactly, and just like me personally, the photo that made me a believer came from Kentucky from my buddy Paul Chafin, and you look at this thing, and there's been a lot of people that say pareidolia, but this photo is circulated throughout the Dogman community within the last 2 to 3 years, people claiming it was their photo. But you clearly see what looks like something that is almost interdimensional, but you only see half of its torso, but you can see what looks almost like a bear-like face with the ears and it just this massive hulking looking body, but you only see the top portion of it. So for someone to say that these things, oh, they're just, you're shooting it through a potato. I mean, obviously, yeah, that's going to be real grainy footage because they're so pixelated by zooming in or the light spectrum's been altered on it. But I mean, you look at the best footage of Patterson Gimlin was filmed off of a 7mm or 8mm camera. So back then that was just a hand cranked camera. So as our best evidence comes from over 50 years ago off an old school camera. Maybe that's the way to go, is to go old school, is what I've been told by multiple investigators, is go the old school way, because these new electronics are just dying out when we go out in the field. So going out with an iPhone 14, you know, with a 5K resolution camera, thing dies out. But you go out with an 8mm camera, you're going to be getting some good evidence, obviously.
Right.
Now, Williams says keep a can of wasp killer, effective for wild animal deterrent. Now we have it here at the house just because we were told that you know, if you can't get to your gun right away, you know, spray them in the face of wasp spray, you know, to blind them, and then get your gun.
I've got wasp spray for protection myself.
But you know,
that's smart to have.
But, you know, it'd work for wildlife and possibly cryptids too. I don't know.
Yeah, I got it for humans.
Yeah, that definitely work on humans. I think with the cryptid, you might just piss it off more than anything.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, definitely want to carry some of that.
So have you ever had any UFO experiences personally?
No, unfortunately I haven't. Not as much as, like I said, I started in this field because of being a UFO enthusiast. Never seen one, but everyone around me else has seen something or has something to tell me about it. I'm just like, how is it with you guys get to see it? But I mean, I try to be on the same frequency level. I mean, I downloaded Dr. Stephen Greer's $5 CE5 app to try to, you know, communicate with these things or just play those different sounds. And I mean, obviously I never got any evidence of it or any lights or orbs in the sky. I mean, but I would definitely love to see one just so I could say, hey, obviously there is something else out there. Because I do keep an open mind that we're not the only ones in this, you know, dimension or this Earth or in this galaxy. So
well, you need to hang out with Brown Dwarf.
I know. I've been actually trying to reach out to him and, you know, try to link up eventually in the near future and just do a day of research together, because I know he's a big Sasquatch investigator. I think he's also looked into the Dogman and the UFO phenomenon. So definitely have to link up with him, hopefully in the near future.
I think everyone's opening up to just anything that's paranormal, cryptid, anything. Just open up to all.
That's one thing I try not to do, is do the paranormal. Like I was telling Chris, I did an interview with them, I think a couple months ago, and I was like, I give you ladies props, because when it comes to paranormal and these things hitchhiking and you taking it home and your lights are turned on and cabinets are open, nope, I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather go look for cryptids out in the woods, but there's obviously a connection to all this stuff, so maybe, but I try not to dive down the paranormal side too much. And the farthest I think I go is maybe the skinwalkers and UFO. But it's like, okay, something that shapes.
Now every live broadcast so far, in this picture behind us, that pistol, there's been some kind of light phenomena come out of it and float around and then disappear. And it comes out of the brown quilt. It comes out of the wall, floats in front of the clock. Sometimes it looks like a little orb or a light.
Sometimes it looks like a hair or a feather, and it changes shape and goes after his head or comes after me. Yeah, we've been having we can't debunk a lot of this. We've had Tex Front Porch and Jason McLean, all of them, they were looking at some of this. They can't explain it. It just shoots out of the gun or the quilt. So yeah, we've been having some strange activity, but I don't feel spooky or anything.
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you guys, is your property near any old native burial ground, or?
Well, we have a native, there's no native like reservations or any kind of tribe left in Illinois. I mean, there is Native Americans in Illinois, but no actual reservation or anything. But the original one, you know, there was like, I don't know, 7 or more individual tribes in Illinois at the time. And our closest one was Chief Senatcheline that's how our area got the name Senatchewan. We have Senatchewan Township, and our high school and everything's named after him. And our mascot at one time was Chief Senatchewan. So
Oh,
his
wow.
grave site and their original area was here in this area that we live on in the Illinois Valley.
We're right on the
Oh.
Illinois River.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, that could be some, I mean, not to say that, oh, this is why you guys are having, a supernatural entity or just paranormal aspect on your guys' property. But I mean, that's one thing I've, doing the whole Dogman research and diving down this rabbit hole is it always seems to be that there's sightings around native burial grounds. So that's one thing why I've tried diving down the native side to these things, or just there's something to it. And it seems not to judge any group or anything, but from all the encounters I've read, a lot of them that I've heard recently, it seems like people that see these dogmen are Native American or have Native American blood in them. And it almost seems like that. One question I've always asked or just pondered is, if you're Native American, do you have a higher frequency of seeing these things? Or because it seems like compared to the settlers that came over here that just rambunctious everything and settled in the land, natives were one with the land. So it's like, is their frequency level different than your everyday average person because they're more in depth to the land? Or I mean, there's so many questions and theories that I've always pondered on this, and it seems like with native burial grounds, the sightings have increased, or just being Native American alone. I mean, having a percentage of bloodline in you, it seems like you have a higher chance of seeing one of these things than actually just seeing one on the side of the road every day,
Yeah,
so
I believe that a lot, because, talking with William and obviously Travis, they have that oral history that's passed down from generation to generation. And not that we don't have history, but that we don't have the same history. Us as Europeans or settlers, we have history markers where we did this event or we had this war or we had whatever. Well, the Native Americans actually have, their stories of, whether it's star people or elementals or, whatever the supernatural, and they have medicine men that are, spiritual leaders, and they're, they have their elders, and they pass down all this information and how to do all this, whether it's living off the land and the migration during the summers and the winters, and how to do all this, that we, have lost all that for us in society, but they kept that alive and going. So yeah, I do believe they, and William talks about all the time, about how they have the connection with, whether you want to say another dimension or travel, into the other world.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like you stated, your Europeans came over here with obviously with their own history and their own, with what they've, their traditions. But natives were, stuck in their tradition and been in their traditions ever since the beginning of time. So whether it be the elementals, the star people, the Ulanga Duglala, the Chiatanka, I mean, you name it. They've obviously there is a recorded history, but it's just passed down through, word of mouth from them. So nothing's in the history books compared to, for example, like how England became a country. It's been written in books thousands of years ago, but it's just been passed on. They wrote their history to where you've got word of mouth from the natives.
Yep. I mean, I truly believe that they were so in tune with the earth and Mother Nature, and like we talked about, the elementals and all, and basically what we would call supernatural stuff, but it was like a daily living. And for them, I mean, it wasn't nothing for them to be able to know what plant, what herb, or what animal, and and they always talked about the spirits of the animal. When they would go out on hunts and kills, they thanked them, and talked to the spirits, about providing for them, and it only took what they needed. Where us as European settlers, we pretty much didn't care and just destroyed everything and took whatever we wanted, no matter what.
Exactly. And I mean, not to jump down a different rabbit hole or go into a different topic, but real quick, like you just said, Europeans, when they were coming over here dealing with early in the turn of the century, 1900s, the Europeans killed off a majority of the bison, and almost it made them go extinct, because here that's how they knew that the natives lived off of was the bison. So if they kill their food supply, they can kill them off too. So that's one thing like you said, that's come in and decimate everything. And that's one thing to really look into, almost put in history that what we've learned and almost applying it to that as well. So,
Right.
Yeah, you have William Cody and, Buffalo Bill, they, and in their later life, he talked about that was one of the saddest things, the thing they got known for and the best thing in their lives, was the buffalo hunts and stuff like that. Then, they ended up ruining it because they wiped them all out. So they were
exactly.
sad later in life, that they couldn't experience that no more, or nobody else could experience it.
Exactly. Trying to eradicate a species to cut off, a race of individuals, from history of themselves. So, I mean, like I said, not to go down a different or change the topic, but I mean, it does correlate. I mean, going off the native and European settlers and traditions and things like that. It's all connected, just like what we were talking in the beginning of the show, and even backstage. There's some connection to all this. I mean, whether you go back 100 years or 1,000 years. I mean, depending on what aspect you want to look down. If you want to look at the European, viewpoint of the Dogman, or I mean, they have the werewolf legend that date back over 1,200 years ago, and you look at the native side that goes back over 1,000 years ago with the Olonga Duglala. I mean, it's so mind-boggling how many different topics or viewpoints you can hit this phenomenon from. And whether you want to just say Dogman, I try to, I'm more of a Dogman guy myself, but I've been trying to creep out a little bit more and try to be open-minded to all the other cryptids and say there's obviously a connection to it. So what are your thoughts on
Hollow Earth?
What was that?
What are your thoughts on Hollow Earth?
On how everything's on Earth?
No, hollow. Hollow Earth, inner Earth. Could Dogmen be coming up from down there?
Yeah, that's another, like I say, with the underground cave systems. I mean, over in Vietnam, what was it, back in 2009, they found the world's largest cave system where it has its own ecosystem and its own atmosphere. Have you guys seen the pictures of that? Where
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has its own water. I mean, something that's never been seen. I mean, it has its own atmosphere, and it's so crazy thing. I mean, for people to say, oh, we live on, flat Earth or a hollow Earth, and that the world's flat. I like I said, I keep an open mind to that. And I've had some people, my own best friend, ridicule me saying, how is it we could see the sun and see the moon, then they're round? I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Does the water just fall off the side of the earth? I mean, who knows? Obviously, if you want to jump down a rabbit hole, looking at the old school maps, it wasn't until the 1800s to when we started seeing more of the rounder maps, but everything else beforehand was flat. So if you think on the flat earth theory, obviously there's got to be some Arctic, ice wall that's keeping the water in. So it's not falling off the sides like people think. So, and then really, if you think about it, I mean, like I say, there's so many different ways. I don't want to sound too crazy or jump off topic of the Dogman, but I do keep an open mind to the hollow earth and to the flat earth theories, and believing that there's more continents out there than just the 7. I'm about to say, hey, that's true, but I'll keep an open mind to it. Show me the proof.
We've got an open mind. There's, I've seen the maps of how much land there is past the ice wall. And, we could still be round shapes. We're either or, we just have an open mind because there's so much pros and cons to both of it and everything. But I do believe that there's probably a lot more land out there, and, they're portal hopping, portal jumping, going back and forth, and we don't know what's all out there. And they've been lying to us about anything and everything. So, who knows what the truth is. But yeah, I've got an open mind that there could be a lot more past that ice wall.
Well, I mean, I know it's been kind of a trending topic off TikTok. I mean, I personally don't have a TikTok. I'm not one of those that really find TikTok to be credible, just because I think people use it as a streaming platform for likes and subscribers, especially with the cryptid, field. That's one thing we've got to really worry about, is it's doing more harm, in my personal opinion, because you got this AI technology and they're creating these trail cam photos and saying, hey, this is a picture of a Dogman. This is a picture of a Sasquatch. And people are buying into it like, oh, look at this picture. It's like, no, it's doing more harm than what, people who don't take this, subject serious because of this stuff. So the TikTok, thing that's been trending on it lately has been the flat earth theory. And one thing that's, they show the map and you show the 7 continents, but outside there's like 20 other continents on the flat earth map. So, I mean, is that where these, higher intelligent beings are living. I mean, they're traveling obviously from one place. What if they're not really portal hopping? What if they have this advanced technology, obviously like the stuff that Bob Lazar was working on over there in S4, and they're just traveling country to country or continent to continent, and it's all on this big old flat Earth map. I mean, that's one thing that you can throw out there, that, hey, get the tinfoil out because it's so crazy. But I mean, you got to keep an open mind, like Jane had said earlier. Just got to keep an open mind to all these different topics, these phenomenons. They all seem to correlate in some way, somehow.
Yeah, we talked about the flat Earth on William's show. We talked about it on our show, and and Dennis brought up the point, that map that we showed that had other continents or islands around the ice wall. You had the constellations, whether it was the Pleiades people or Orion, or all the different ones. But Dennis brought up the fact of, what if that was dimensions that somebody mapped out? We had our known continents, inside the ice wall, but everything on the outside was actually, dimensions that we can travel to or go to.
Exactly. And that's the different things that, like I say, everyone's got to keep an open mind to. I mean, I believe that NASA especially has suppressed us with so much information, especially with the International Space Station. You watch certain videos and you see these people glitch in and out while they're on there and they're spinning around. And then you see the green screen behind them. So really, is there really an International Space Station, or is it just NASA suppressing so much information? Just like when, what was it? Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were flying around, their communication cut off for like 5 minutes, and then the video went black. I mean, obviously they were said years after that they were experimenting or experiencing, extraterrestrial beings near the ship, so obviously there's something to it that they were cutting out. Just like, why haven't we been back to the moon? Why haven't we been to the dark side of the moon? Obviously there's bases, just like NASA will, wipe off certain pictures where you see these crafts fly right by the International Space Station, or the bases on Mars that you see. Like I said, there's so many different rabbit holes to go down. That being the UFO side of it, I've seen all that, because like I said, before I got into the Dogman, I was really big into the UFOs and aliens, and there's bases there's photos that people put on, Mars and the moon. So, but NASA suppresses all this information because they don't want the mass hysteria.
Right.
Yeah, we don't necessarily say any of this is all true. It's all speculation.
Exactly. It's all speculation.
And we like to go down rabbit holes just like everybody else. And we'll take all this information and try to form our own opinion, or what we think, or theories of our own, what we think. But then, like, we'll talk to you and we'll listen to you, and you'll have something different to interject into us. And so now we'll think about that and say, well, yeah, I think we can look into that and maybe add another piece of the puzzle of how we're perceiving cryptids, UFOs, supernatural stuff, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing, like, you guys are familiar with Carlito. I think he's been on William's show a couple times on the flat Earth topic. And in our group chat, we have another buddy, if you guys are familiar with Brian Bowden. Brian is so laughing at Carlito for believing in the flat Earth theory, but Carlito will throw back and be like, show him the proof that he's found. And I mean, that's what makes I think the whole cryptid community and the paranormal community all together, it was such a fascinating topic, because I'm not saying, hey, Gerald and Jane, your flat Earth theory is wrong, that this is my way. I'm going to tell you how this really is. We're open to the idea that, hey, we have this theory on the flat Earth theory, and then I might have a different opinion, and we form it together. And, we might give it to someone down the road, and they might say, hey, I can add to that. So I think that's what's so cool about this community. I like to just say cryptid paranormal, because there's you could dive down so many different rabbit holes or call it so many different names, but just the rabbit hole community, I guess you could say, the open-minded community. So
I mean, that's why we say everything's so interconnected and so related to each other. They all have, whether it's Sasquatch, Dogman, whatever cryptid you want to pick, or fallen angels or UFOs. I mean, they all have characteristics that are all so similar, and everybody has reports that you could almost interchange one with the other. So it happens all across the board in all these different fields or whatever you're interested in. We're just saying, open your mind, try to raise your consciousness. And if you can say your aspect, like you're Dogman,
Mhm.
Well, if you believe in Dogman, how much of a stretch is it to say there's a Sasquatch out there, or there's a UFO alien race that could be out there, or flat Earth? It's stuff you just need to look into and decide for yourself what you believe.
Let
Yep.
alone reptilians.
Exactly. We got to
No.
deal with the reptilians as well, the shapeshifters. I mean, I had a buddy who's a big believer in Sasquatch, but he's very against the whole dogman belief. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you keep an open mind to this hominid creature that lives in the woods, but yet you can't be open minded to believe there's a bipedal 7 foot, 8 foot canine out in the woods.
Right.
He's like, absolutely not. It blows my mind. I'm like, okay, but you got to reveal a little bit more of that tinfoil, buddy, because if you're believing in Sasquatch, you got to really keep an open mind to the dogman, because the sightings are increased, just over the last 8 years by almost, I'd say 70 to 80%, because I believe more people are coming forward on the topic, because 20 years ago they would have been crucified, saying, no, werewolves don't exist. But I think 2023 is that people being more open to it, more curious about the topic of Sasquatch. I mean, I do believe personally that Dogman has supplanted Sasquatch as the #1 cryptid that everyone's curious about, because it's so terrifying. And I believe that's why you've got the AI community, or the certain podcasters that just want to go and create the creepypasta stories to get the bait out there, the clickbait. Clickbait, and the stories behind it. But I also believe that also causes more of a headache for the cryptid community, because how are you supposed to differentiate what's real and what's creepypasta? So, I mean, just being an investigator, you kind of got to know, because not every day, like if I told you I saw a Dogman encounter, I'm not going to go full on detail, like what color it was or what time it was. I mean, a lot of these encounters you hear, and they're so, narrated so very well. It just like makes you think, maybe is it 4 or 5 encounters thrown into one? Or because not your everyday person's going to go into full detail and remember key details on these topics, or what they saw, in the split 10 seconds. So
I hope everyone's prepared that once we get to know Dogman and Sasquatch and some of these others better, there's probably going to be a new cryptid creature that shows up, and we're going to start all over again.
I know, right? That's what my good buddy always told me that. He's like, for every answer you might have to a theory, there's going to be 20 more questions. I'm like, it's like a never-ending rabbit hole,
Right.
Very true.
Yeah, that's the one thing that 2020 at least did for us. It kept everybody home, and to keep yourself occupied, everybody got on the internet and did research and dove into this stuff. Then this whole community of new podcasters came up and gave you something interesting to listen to, whether you believed in it or not. At least you were able to open up your mind and say, okay, this guy talks about flat Earth. Here's a Dogman channel. Here's a Sasquatch channel. Here's somebody that does all of it. They just have everything in there.
Exactly.
It was just amazing. I think that it did open people's minds, that they had all this content now to go through, and all these stories, of everyday people. We're not talking about people that's been out there forever, they're known in this field. This is everyday people that are sharing their experiences and what they've seen, and they're finally coming out and saying, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take a leap and tell my story.
Yep.
That's what's so neat about all this stuff.
And like you just said, Gerald, that's what got me into this, was because of the everyday people that are coming forward with it. And then you try to map it all together, and it seems like there's some correlation or similarities from encounters in Pennsylvania down to Oklahoma, Illinois, out to Washington and California, for example. There's something out there that people are seeing that aren't just Sasquatch. And, is it a bipedal canine? I mean, the saying, if it was 1 or 2 people, like I said earlier, then I'd probably say, oh, that's just. But then again, when you're getting hundreds of reports throughout the years, and they're all some similar characteristics to these things, there's got to be something else out there. One thing that I kind of think that's more creepypasta is the rake or the crawler. I kind of really keep an open mind to that, but I mean, because there is a lot of creepypastas on it, just like with the Slender Man. Obviously, Slender Man isn't a real thing, but it was created off of some type of what looked like almost like a rake or a crawler, but something that's white, human-like, or was that? I can't even say, like alien looking. It's just so out of the bizarre. But if these things do live underground or from another dimension, hey, add it to the list.
Right. Yeah, you got to get to a point, where like you're talking about the rake. Okay, that could be a cryptid, that could be some kind of demonic entity or whatever that came through a portal or dimensional, but then you get the myths and the fables and the people's imagination dragging it off into a whole nother genre. You got to kind of try to separate all that and figure out,
What's
we're
real,
already
what's
having
not.
trouble enough convincing people, about Sasquatch and Dogman. Now you're taking some other cryptid and turning it into some kind of fantasy story. Then that's when everybody goes,
Well, then you got fairies
Yep.
and fays and elves and trolls and gnomes and hobbits and
goblins.
goblins and all those kind of little things. Yeah.
Exactly. There's so many different things. Is it folklore? Is it just made up? Is it people's imaginations? I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I think that's what I love about this community, though, is that you got so many people that are supportive. And I'm not going to say you're crazy because in reality, it's all crazy to really think about because, I mean, none of this stuff is supposed to exist. So finding like-minded people and just being open up to it. And like I said, I honestly have more friends in the cryptid community in the last year and a half that are so supportive of just what I want to look into, or if I have a question I can reach out to, then, honestly, I have, my everyday friends. I mean, I have coworkers and stuff that are my friends, but I talk more to the cryptid community than I do my own personal friends. That, to me, the cryptid people are more of my friends because no matter what, they show up. If I have a question, they're there, or if I need something, that they're there. It's such a supportive cast of people, and it's an honor to call you guys friends, like vice versa, that if you guys needed anything, or hey, I heard this topic about a dog, man, Shane, what's your theory on it? Hey, I'll give you my honest opinion. Or if I had something on UFOs and Jane might have a really cool idea or theory behind it that I didn't know about, and take her opinion, and we just trade ideas, and that's what I just love about this community.
Yeah,
same here. Great. I just love this community.
Right. Great people.
Well, Shane, it's been, what is it, almost 7:30 our time now. We've been on for what, an hour and a half?
Oh yeah, I did totally see what happens is when you talk to some good friends. Like I was telling Krista when I did an interview with them, we can go 2 to 3 hours. It doesn't even feel like I'm being interviewed. It's more that we're just talking to good friends, sitting around a fire or at a table and just bouncing off ideas off each other's heads and just, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So you guys,
that's why I love these.
Yeah, you guys are.
We can keep going. We can keep going if you want. This would be a good time to stop, and we can have a part 2 sometime and have you back on. And
yeah, for sure. I'd be honored. I'd love to have you guys jump on. I just started a new podcast, the West Coast Sasquatch podcast, and love to have you guys on in the near future. I mean, I've got some people booked up, but I'd love to have you on.
Yeah, that'd be great. We can come on. We can come on any of their channels and talk about almost any subject, because we've been researching this for a lot of times. We just never ever came out, just like you, and said anything about anything. We just kind of kept our opinions to ourselves
and our experiences. We've just been keeping to ourselves and not really telling a whole lot of people because we didn't think anyone would believe us.
But look at you guys now. You're out there and you guys are, being opened up and, doing the podcasting. And like I said, you guys are part of the West Coast family. So it's an honor to have you. I call it the West Coast Ohana because everyone that's a part of that, as a friend of mine, is a part of my Ohana. So you guys are family. So I'd love to have you. Like you said, it doesn't matter what platform it is. West Coast Dogman, West Coast Sasquatch. Hell, who knows? I might even start a UFO, podcast.
There you go. I was just getting ready to say, you're part of our family now too. The Midwest Night Watchers. You might have to start a West Coast Night Watchers.
I might just have to, and make you guys the admins and the founders. Carol and Jane Fountain, that would be awesome.
These last few minutes, let's give away a pack of stickers to somebody in the audience, and I'll have you think a moment while I'm showing the stickers, and you can ask them a question on something that you either talked about or we talked about, and whoever comes up with the first or the right answer that we think, we'll send them out these stickers. And I think you probably recognize this one.
Oh, that one's that one. I haven't seen that one in a minute. I like that. Honestly, that was probably one of my favorite ones I think I've made. I made it for William for his podcast.
So we got
so Shane
made this up for William, and I stole it off of William without him knowing it, so I could make the sticker for him.
Those are nice, though. Those turned out really good.
And then I made the one for our night owl, our 12:30 a.m. show. course, now I changed the name, so this sticker is going to be a limited edition because now our show is Night Owl Lounge.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I thought you had opened up another segment. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that you changed the name. Okay.
We're probably gonna have to
It's
be like
chat
you.
night.
We're probably gonna have to do a Dogman channel, a Bigfoot
No,
channel.
no.
Oh man, trust me, it's a headache, man. I mean, starting off with 2, just running 1's enough. But I'm just
I've
like,
got 3.
oh, you got 3.
One I
Man.
haven't done anything with for about 2 years. And then I got my Chiro Sounds that I do all my instruments.
Oh,
So
okay.
we got a sticker for her channel,
Nice.
Razor Vibration.
That is
So everybody can go over to Chiro
together.
Sounds and check out her YouTubes.
Yeah, Midwest Night Watchers passed me up. We have more subscribers on Midwest Night Watchers now than I do on my Chiro Sounds.
I thought, you know, we might get maybe 5 or 6 people, family and friends or something to follow us, and now it's
Right.
starting to grow. I just
Oh,
can't
yeah.
believe it.
A lot of people curious into the subjects and the topics.
Everybody seems to like this one.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite one right there. I like
That's
that.
cool. I love that.
And the owl is perfect because owls are nocturnal. So being a night watcher, how you
Yeah.
came up with that logo is awesome, Gerald.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's been doing good with that. Yeah.
Oh,
So if you want to ask the chat a question, and we'll see who answers it first, and I'll have them send me their information through our email, and we'll give that out.
Okay. What is it? Just any random question?
Just any random question
Yeah,
on something that you mentioned or
Yeah.
we mentioned that
Something that we talked about tonight.
Something that I haven't mentioned, but someone, this might be a hard one, but it might be pretty easy. What's my favorite color?
Oh, all right, everyone. What's Shane's favorite color? Let's guess.
I
Yeah.
think I have a guess.
Whoever gets it will get a package of stickers.
There we
All right,
go.
We got a few. We got a few popping up.
We have
Yep.
Sam Thomas say green.
Oh, yeah, but what form of green though? That's the thing.
Oh, a form of green.
Yeah, if that's the thing. I've got a certain.
All right. So if you said green, what form of green? You got to be more specific of green. And you can see Williams. I'm only seeing.
Yeah, I'm looking at all of them. We got
Nobody.
Raven
Oh,
said green,
Crystal.
War
Crystal
Criminal.
said neon green. She's correct.
Okay, Crystal J.
Crystal
Now I
J.
had a War Criminal say lime green. Would you count lime green?
Now which one? Oh, he said it right after Sarah said, or Cynthia said neon, I think, right? Let's see.
We got
Raven said lime.
Raven said lime, War said lime, Crystal said neon.
Yeah, I see Raven said lime. So
No, Maggie says fluorescent green.
yeah, so fluorescent, neon, or lime would have been the correct answer. So whoever got that one first, if you guys go back, I thought it was Crystal that got it. Neon green's what I saw.
Oh, what?
Raven
I got
said
War
lime.
Criminal first, and my chat that said,
Our chat, I've got Raven under lime first.
well, I got StreamYard up, and I went back, and the first one, I believe, after everybody said green.
Yeah, because mine shows that Raven,
I see
Raven, and then
Raven said lime.
Yeah, and then after that, I see lime from War Criminal. So I'll let you guys decide, but everyone's correct that said neon green, lime green, bright fluorescent green. That's my favorite color, obviously.
Well, tell you what, Crystal J, Raven, and War, send us your information through MidwestNightWatchers@gmail.com, and all 3 of you get them tonight.
Oh, there you
So
go.
how's that? How's that? We kind of had a 3-way kind of tie here.
Yeah, sorry, I should have made the question a little bit more difficult, but I didn't want it to be too
That's
difficult.
all
problem.
right.
No problem. So there you go.
Well, you go ahead and give out your information,
Yep.
your channels, and anything you got coming up that you want to announce, and we'll
Okay.
just end this tonight.
Well, you guys, it's been a true honor to be on your guys' show. Like I said, you guys are now family to the West Coast, and it's an honor to be a part of the Night Watchers as with you guys. And I mean, this week we just started our second episode of the West Coast Sasquatch Project podcast, where I'm going to have Jeremiah Fountain come on Tuesday, talk about his Sasquatch encounters. Then I'm interviewing the International Dogman Project founder, Nick Valente, this Thursday. And we're going to talk about his Dogman encounters that he's had and field of research. And then you can reach out to me on YouTube under West Coast Dogman Project, or you can reach out to me on Facebook under the same name, or in the other West Coast Sasquatch, West Coast Skugway, Chupacabra, UFO, Skinwalker, you name it. We also have the United States Dogman Federation, which we just started up as its own organization, neutral organization. And then I'm also the Region 1 director for the North American Dogman Project. And you can reach out to our Facebook channel there, or our Facebook page, and reach out to me there as well. So, yeah, you type in Dogman, my name probably pops up.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a
you want to
true
give out your channel?
Well, everyone knows I'm Chiro Sounds. No, just if anyone's interested in crazy instruments and music, I do Native American flutes, drums, hand pans, tongue drums, keyboard, guitar, just you name it. You can just go on over to Chiro Sounds and sub. I am behind on videos. I've been so busy with this show here, so I need to get some videos going and upload on my channel.
Then you can get a hold of us here at Midwest Night Watchers, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and we have William's platform with all the same channels. He's on 6 or 7 and 3 different Facebooks and 2 different YouTubes, and you can find him on the High Strangeness podcast, the Red Rabbit Hole podcast on YouTube and all them, and you can just find us almost anywhere on social network if you just type in our names or William Nighthawk or his High Strangeness. And then Dennis, who's on the Morning Brew shows on the weekends with us, he's obviously on Demonology Today on Grizzly, Hunt for Grizzly.
I think is that what it's called? Hunt for Grizzly?
Yeah,
Grizzly on the Hunt, something like that.
So we're starting to spread out everywhere, and like I said, our Gmail, is MidwestNightWatchers@gmail.com. So you 3 send us your information. We'll get those stickers out to you. And if anybody else has any questions, put them in the comments after the show, or send us an email. And the same with Shane, send him an email. Mm-hmm. Go to his website and his social medias and give him a thumbs up and hit the notification and share all this information out. And this was such a great show. I'm just so glad you came on.
Thank you.
It was a true honor. I thank you guys so much. And like I said, you guys are family. And I can't wait to you guys to come on my podcast and we'll talk about all the crazy cryptids and unknown and paranormal. You name it. We'll go down lots of rabbit holes and continue on with part 2.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. We'll set a date.
Okay, sounds good. I'll reach out to you guys here after the show, and maybe we can set something up in
the
future.
Stay in the backyard or backyard. Stay in the
backyard. Take you down, and we're gonna play a little short video of some of Jane's music while everybody's still talking in the chat, and then when we end the show, we'll talk to you about this.
We'll see you in a few minutes.
All right. Thanks again, you guys.
All right. All right, everybody, we're going to show a video from, we showed one at the beginning, but it didn't last very long. And we're going to end the show with it and let you relax a little bit and enjoy this video. And we'll see you next time.
Bye. We love you.